You're watching the Getting Started with Android course. In this lesson, we're going to take the data that we've put up online and bring it down into our app so that we can use that to build out our views. So how we're going to do this is we're going to use a third-party library called Retrofit, which you can find at square.github.io/retrofit. And this will give you some documentation on how it'll be used. We'll also go over a very basic use case for it. So if you scroll down to the bottom of this documentation after you've looked it over, you're going to find a section called Gradle. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take this compile line, we'll copy it, and we'll come back to Android Studio. And we're going to go to Source, and then right under the source file, there's a build.gradle file. So we'll go into there. And then under this dependencies node at the very bottom, we'll just go ahead and paste in that retrofit line. So we'll go ahead and sync that. And then we can start adding in the code that we're going to need to set up the actual networking operations. So we'll come back to app, source, main, Java, and under utils, let's go ahead and make a new class. So new Java class, and we'll go ahead and call this animal API interface. And we're going to change this over from being a public class to a public interface. And then we're going to add in an annotation that's required by Retrofit, that is get. And then we will import the retrofit.http version of this. And we'll just type in /exhibits.json. And then this will actually match up to the end of our JSON URL, which is /exhibits.json. So this is how we tell it what file we're looking for within this API. And we're just going to add in a method here called void getStreams. We'll add in a callback, which will come in from Retrofit. It's going to have a list of animal type. We'll import that, and we'll import list, and we'll import the retrofit.callback, and we'll just call this callback. When you're done with that, this is the interface that we will use within our app. So we'll go ahead and close this. And then the next thing we're going to want to do is come back to our data. And from this URL that we have our data in, we're going to come back here to the URL before the /exhibits.json that we used for the previous part. We're going to copy everything before exhibits. We're going to come back to app, source, main, res. Then we'll come down to values and strings. And we're going to add in a new string value here. So string name is equal to exhibits_feed, and this is just the name for it. So it doesn't really matter what you call it, but this is a good name for it just to be organized. And we'll go ahead and paste in that URL. So now you can see it's just the gist URL that we had up until the /exhibits.json. So we'll save that. And then next we're going to go to app, source, main, Java, fragments, and exhibit list fragment. So this is where we will actually use the library so that we can pull down data to display. So we need to create a method called onActivityCreated, which is an overridden method that is provided by Android and the list fragment. So we're just going to go ahead and go with the version that it gives us. Then underneath super, we're going to create a new object called a REST adapter, which is from Retrofit. We'll call this REST adapter, and we'll make it equal to a new REST adapter static class, and we're going to use their builder. And we're going to set endpoint, and we're going to get string r.string.animal feed. Oh, I'm sorry, it should be exhibits feed. We need to import R. Now this exhibits feed is the same name that we just gave to our string here in the strings.xml file. So you're just going to take that and use that right there. Finally, we'll just use build, and this will create our REST adapter that we will use with Retrofit. Next, we need to make an instance of our animals API interface. So we'll go to the animal API interface. We'll call this animal API interface, and we'll use REST adapter that we just created, and we'll create animal API interface.class. So this will create the interface that's used by Retrofit for actually parsing out all of the JSON into our model object that we will use to display the data within this app. So finally, we'll use animal API interface .get streams, which is the method that we used in our interface, which you can see if we come back here to utils, and there we go. So yes, it's get stream and it accepts a callback. So we're going to use new callback and we're going to pass in a list of animal. We'll do our imports. We need to throw in a set of parentheses here and our curly bracket. And then there's a method called success that we're going to use. And then there's also a method called failure. So if this fails, let's just go ahead and use log.e. We'll call this zoo for the tag. We'll say retrofit error plus we're going to get the error message. We'll use get message and we'll just leave this here. So if something does go wrong with our network call, we'll at least know from our developer console. So that's what log.e is. It just is a way to log out any kind of errors that happen within your app so you can debug what's going on. So back to on success, we're just going to see if animals is null or animals is empty. We'll just go ahead and return because we don't want to do anything. So if we had a contingency code for when there's no data coming down, but it is a successful call, we would throw it in this if statement. Otherwise, we're just going to cycle through all the animal objects and just print out the name for now. We'll go ahead and create our view in the next lesson. So we use for animal from the animals list. We'll just say log.e zoo, and we'll just use animal.getName. So this will print out the name in our developer console of every animal that is coming down in our network call. So if we run this, we'll go ahead and put this on our emulator, and we should see this log out the list of animals that we have in our information here. So we'll see giraffe, gala, the dart frog, and so forth. So I'll run this. Now if we scroll the logs here, so we do have an error here, but it is retrofit error permission denied. So it's saying it's missing the internet permission, which means that this just came out of our onFailure method. So we are missing the internet permission. We need to let the Android OS know that this app will request to use the internet so the user can know that, hey, this is what the permissions are on this app. If they don't want to allow it, they don't have to install it. And it's just a security setup within Android. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to app, source, main, and then there is a Android manifest.xml file. So under the manifest tag, right before application, we're going to just add in angle bracket, uses permission, and we will pass in the internet permission. We'll close that off and we'll run this again. We'll hit OK. And you'll see that we now have a log message with all the animal types that are within our data. So now that we're able to pull down our data, in the next lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to create the views to display this information out to the user in a list. So I will see you then.